in the news today. Ready?
Yeah.
Now we're on?
We're ready. We're on the news.
Okay. We'll keep that. Okay, here we go. I just want to recap here because we had 2 weeks. We had a break a little bit. Everybody went on vacation for Hanukkah. Basically, last time we spoke about the idea that's coming in this week's Parsha, actually, Gviya Mita Ve'asifa. We spoke about the 3 different types of disappearances. We have the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, which we mentioned about when a person is as niftar. Okay, we mentioned about the fact that a person dies by the Neshama naturally wanting to go back home. He wants to go back to his place. And then automatically he ends up finding his way up to Shamayim. That's what we spoke about, more or less. Okay, we obviously were Marich on last time. You can look at the last year that we did. I want to mention a couple things. One is a Zohar in this week's Parsha, actually. And this is in the first year, the second year, we summarized a little bit of the events that happens after a person dies. Now, I just wanted to bring it in detail about what happens after a person is niftar, what happens to the neshama, with a lot of relevant halachot that will come out. That will be this year. And the next year we will start on the inyanim of kvura, of burial. What happens when a person is buried, and that goes together with chibut kever, what we call chibut kever, which is one of the first dinim, one of the first things that happen to a person. But we'll speak about that next week. Right now I just want to conclude this thing that we've been speaking about what happens to a person after death, with this idea. So the Zohar says like this: the Nefesh, and this is the main thing I'm focusing on today, the Zohar says Mefurash, the Nefesh stays by the body, by the kever, even after the Neshama disappears. As we mentioned, there's a Neshama, Ruach, and Nefesh. The Neshama might go up to Shamayim when you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, that's why you're 160th death. When a person dies, the Ruach also goes. That's the second level. The Ruach goes up to Shamayim, and that's why he's not functioning. That's why he's brain dead. He's not able to do anything. But the Chiddush here, which I'm sure not too many scientific gestures would agree to this, is that the Nefesh is still around. There's still something called the Nefesh, which is connected to the body, even though the Ruach is upstairs in Gan Eden, hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, but still the Nefesh stays by the body. And as the breakdown of the Zohar is, over there the Nefesh stays by the body, the Ruach is in Gan Eden at Tachton, the lower Gan Eden, something we'll be speaking about later when we speak about Gan Eden. Even next week we'll speak about it a little bit. And the Neshama is in Gan Eden Elyon, is in a higher Gan Eden, it's in the higher auspices over there. Okay, that's what it says. Now where does this spalt, this difference come from? So it's like this is Yedua from the Arizal, the Eitz Chaim. He brings these ideas more or less that there is something that a person receives from his father is called Havla de Garmi, which is the spirit of your bones. The bones has a certain type of nefesh. It's actually a lower nefesh. The higher nefesh you get from your mother. Baruch Hashem, you all have mothers, so we all have a nefesh, right? Because our mother gives us a nefesh, which is a makifin, which is a more powerful kind of nefesh. It's a nefesh which surrounds your body. When a person is nifter, then the bones still remain with this nefesh ktana. It still has in it this nefesh ktana, which gives it a little bit of life. There's still a little bit of life in it from the nefesh that a person receives from his father. This is known as the Havla de Garmi. It's an expression for people who are busy with these farm, who like to learn these farm, not like me, but people who like to learn these farm. They know the Nefesh Garmi is a very famous expression of the Nefesh Garmi. You could make many interpretations, but simply in your bones, right? The spirit that lasts inside of your bones. He brings the pasuk, Nafshoy alav sivloy alea, that there's a certain type of nefesh that surrounds you and it continues around you. And therefore it's around. If a person did not have a little bit of nefesh in his bones, and I'm referring, of course, after one is niftar, one is dead, then his bones would just or disappear or just fall to pieces. It would become completely disintegrate, which is in Yechezkel, there's the Atzamot Yaveshot. Yechezkel Sa, in the Sefer Yechezkel, it talks about the Atzamot Yaveshot. What's more dry than a bone? All bones are dry. Bones are dry by essence, but what he meant is that it didn't have the Havla de Garmi. That's how some interpret it. It didn't have this Havla de Garmi, and therefore it was not able to contain anything, and it was just not even bone. It was frivolous. It didn't exist. It didn't have anything. Okay, this is an idea. It's a concept that we have in the creation of the world. Everything works in this way. Of course, I'm not going to get into this, but there's also an idea. I'm definitely not going to speak about this. Just there's an idea when the world was created or came into the world. Okay, or came into the world, and it was too much or kilu into the kalim, right? Into this kli, some or came into it, and that's what is able to contain the light. And because the light was so expansive, so powerful, it exploded the kli. The kli destroyed. The kli got exploded, and the light had to go back upstairs. But even when the light goes back upstairs, and the light went back, this is what we're left with, is you have what we call a rishima, a little bit of a roshem, a little bit of leftover light. Okay, this is a concept that we have all the time. The one you're familiar probably with the Gemara. The Gemara in Sota, as we all know, that a person, when he's in the stomach, knows kol atara kula. You remember it, of course, right? And when you, even though you're born, you forgot everything, but there's still a roshem. There's epis mashu. Sometimes you remember something, sometimes you connect to it, sometimes you have a certain affiliation to that Torah because it was there once. And it's the famous question, why do you have to learn if anyways I'm going to forget it? Yishkoyach, would that help? But the answer is there's always this rishima. That's how the world was created. Everything's like that. That's how it is with death also. We have a certain nefesh, ruach, neshama within us, and everything leaves, and we lose everything, unfortunately. Lo aleinu, and that's what happens. Hopefully Mashiach will come before them. But even so, when it leaves, we're still left with a little bit of a reshima. We're left with a little bit of a roshim, which is the havla de garmi, which is a little bit of the leftovers of the nefesh, which comes up. The Ben Yoyada, the Ben Ish Chai writes, Me'il katan ta'aseh lo imo, which was written on Shmuel, is referring to this little nefesh, which is left over. The Me'il katan, that we still have a little bit of leftover. Okay, so that's an important concept. That again, I'm going to show you a lot of places where this is relevant in halacha. As you know, I'm trying to bring both together. This idea is not just a esoteric, interesting, and curious idea, but there's more to it. It has a lot of relevance to halacha. Okay, but that's what happens when the neshama goes up and then the ruach. You're left a little bit with this nefesh. Now, the Zohar also writes in Parshat Vayechi, our Parsha. Now, I just want to tell you, a lot of the Zohars which I've been quoting is in this week's Parsha, Parshat Vayechi. It's swimming in this because Yaakov Avinu was niftar, Yaakov Avinu lo met, etc. And all of the ideas of death, etc., not all, but a lot, a very big amount is written over here in Parshat Vayechi, and it's also in the Reshit Chochmah. If anyone wants to find the Reshit Chochmah, I can show you inside. He has a lot of these things. He says like this, Amar of Yehuda, Kol Zayin Yamei Avelut, for the whole 7 days of Avelut, Haneshama Olechet Mibayit Lekever Umikever Labayit. The neshama goes back and forth from one place to the next, from the kever to the house of the kever. Umitavelet ala guf. It keeps going back and looking at its body, and he's avel on it. Ach besara olav yichav and nafsha olav te'avel. He still has. He brings a pasuk that he still has ke'ev. He still has pain about his body. He sees his body, but he goes back to the house. Okay, he goes back to the house and he goes back. Holechet v'yoshevet. I'm reading you straight from the words. Yep. Holechet v'yoshevet b'bayit. He sits in the house. Vored kulam atzuvim. He sees everyone upset. Umitavelet gam imahem. And the neshama also sits avelut together with everybody else. Okay, for 7 days, the neshama is there sitting avelut together with everyone else. And like I said, there's going to have a lot of nafkamina le'alacha about such a thing. Just 1 second. And therefore we see from here for 7 days and not after 7 days, he hangs out at least by the house. We'll see about the kever in a minute. But more or less his adventures are back from the kever to the house, to the kever to the house, until the guf turns into, this is the words, aguf nesa bo masha nesa, v'haneshama nichneset limkoma, until he sees that the guf, the body, has dissipated or is decomposing, and then he goes up to where he has to go. I'm reading, I just want to finish the Zohar. V'nichneset, listen to this, he's nichneset l'marat ha'machpelah. He goes to Marat HaMachpelah. Do you ever know that? He goes to Marat HaMachpelah, and that is the funnel, Marat HaMachpelah, the tunnel. Marat HaMachpelah is the tunnel to how he gets to Shamayim. That's the adventure. If anyone wants to know the secret code, then that's the way to go. Maybe underneath there's a lot of places down there you're not allowed to go. It could be that you'll find the way to Gan Eden, in one way or the other, maybe, also. Right? But Al-Kopanim, that's what it is. From there you go Lamala. That's the word. Through Marat HaMachpelah. It very could be that in these near-death experiences we always saw that people saw a light and a tunnel. It could be the tunnel was the Marat HaMachpelah, but that's not relevant. If it is, it's not. But Al-Kopanim, you do see Mefurish in the Zohar, the ideas that we kept seeing, that he goes back and forth. He's always looking at his goof. All of the people always say, we saw my body, I don't know what's going on, I felt bad, I see everybody upset, I saw my sister in the waiting room crying for me, I didn't know what was going on. Suddenly I realized, ooh, that's my body, I didn't even realize. He was all confused, which is mamish the words of the Zohar here. He writes about the confusing of the neshama. What's going on here? I didn't realize what's happening. Yeah, David, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm a little confused.
Okay, this is a better type of confusion. Yeah.
So I thought Tiva, the neshama goes up
On
to
top.
Gan Eden. You started by saying that. Now
I said he goes up to the neshama.
The higher.
Yeah, no, I was talking about in general.
Oh,
that's going to be the situation. He's not in Gan Eden yet. No, he doesn't go straight. He doesn't get a one-way ticket. No, in general, that will be the conclusion. All right. Say again.
But the Mifta's son sit in Shiva in America. You're going to his daughter sit in Shiva.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I hear it. It's a good question. Yeah, B'ikaran, where does he go? The pshutai. If you look in the Sifrei Halacha, yeah, I know. If you look in the Sifrei Halacha, he usually goes to his house where it is. Now, he's saying the nursing home is a little bit good question. If he's really in the nursing home, and there's a lot of spooks in the nursing home then because everybody's dying there. But the pshuta, he goes to his house, his residence, where he was for the majority of life, or where he was in general.
Should be a hakpada then to go to the house.
Yes, al pi halacha, it's definitely lechatchila to be done. I also, it was just relevant really recently. I tried to say it should be, but they waiver it in halacha sometimes when it's completely inconvenient for the Levalim, and they say that it's not possible. So you hope for the best, but really, it should be in the house of the niftar. It really should be there. Yeah, that's definitely. It's brought down the halacha that should be what's done. But again, in halacha, sometimes we have to waiver things for convenience.
So I'm still confused in the same way.
He's also confused.
As we have here.
Why?
Was it in the?
I was pretty.
In the near-death experiences, they immediately have that thing of going to the light. Like
Yeah, okay.
They only go to the light
After 7 days.
after 7 days.
Look, the light was a shechina, and it was a kind of like walking towards. I don't know if I want to call Marat Machpelah what he says, but it's walking towards a certain end. You understand? So it's very. First of all these people said that they see their body, and they're going around, and then they see the light, and they see the body, and they see they're going back and forth. They're seeing it, right? So they're still around. But remember, they're not dead. We didn't speak about dead people yet. If they were dead, then my guess is that something happens in the next step. Then they start going to the house, and they come back, and they see, and they're going around and this and that. But they were still like in the middle of a decision whether I should follow through or come back. And all those guys end up coming back. That's what I mentioned with them. You can't bring a good proof, because a lot of things we see that they say, everyone says the same thing, but you can't bring full proof to everything we're speaking about because they didn't die. They came back.
Something else, because we explained there's different types of neshama and ruach, the different levels. Could there be 2 levels of consciousness? There may be part of the person is in Shemayim, those things, and part of the consciousness is down here.
Okay, if you want to get scientific about it, I hear.
No, I'm not being scientific. I'm not being there's different levels. Maybe one level's up here,
a higher level and lower level.
They're working in parallel rather than being
okay. I mean, at this stage, I'm not sure if that's 100% what's happening. Yeah, in the beginning, I think it's all together, and then afterwards, there's the split. You're right about the split afterwards, but I think in the beginning, it's more one thing.
Why is that the most natural?
Good question. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the source of where Adam Rishon started. And that's the source of the world was started creation from that area. So Evan Shtia. You're right. I don't know. I can't give a good answer. That's the truth. What?
So first and foremost, there's immediate like this separation, like I said, looking above is very separate from the body. But
Yeah,
you also
right.
spoke of the feeling of still being in the body and feeling physical.
He didn't feel in physical
But
way.
you said all these different persons. The person leaves.
That's right.
And they're now seeing their body. They're traveling everywhere.
Right. Exactly.
So how does that also reconcile? Well, you mentioned a person can feel the pain of a.
Oh, we're going to get to that. That we're going to get to. You'll see. But you're right. No, I'm going to speak about that even today. Okay? But at least we're saying right now that those 7 days he goes back and forth. We mentioned 3 days. The first 3 days, he's when he finally realizes his body's decomposing, he realizes, oh boy, the person's really dead. He realizes about himself that he is really dead. But he still goes back and forth for 7 days. He just gets more clarity apparently after 3 days. And that's why it's brought in the halacha. The Kesef Mishnah is the Beit Yosef. Moran, he brings down in the halacha of 3 days. We say the first 3 days you can't work. Really all 7 days a person should not work if he's a novel. But 3 days, no matter what, even if he's poor, he doesn't have any money, he's not allowed to work. After 3 days, you have to ask a rabbi. But the rabbi could allow you to work after 3 days. Okay? And the reason for this difference is the first 3 days the neshama is really in bilbul, and you have to mamish be sitting. That's the most serious point of avelut. In the last 4 days, then at least it's a little bit better. Okay? It's a little bit better, and therefore sometimes you might be allowed. And there's more a heavy avelut the first 3 days. The first 3 days is much more of a heavy avelut. Because the neshama is in a real mitzukah, he's in a real bad situation. What do you mean? What's the guy sitting available for? He's sitting available for the dead person.
What is it?
What? He's sitting because of the dead person. So the more he's in tsar, the more. That's why when he's finished after 12 months, like we'll speak about, so he stops sitting avelut. As long as he's in tsar, then the person's sitting avelut. That's what he's sitting avelut about. So the more intense the tsar is, the first 3 days, the more he should be sitting avelut. There's no atering, no budging. You
It
understand?
sounds like this that one should speak to the niftar during these days because he's around.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Okay, guys, let's keep going. Okay, B'kitzur, that's it. The Sefer Hasidim brings the Tsar Neshama on the Bizui and the Nivul Aguf. The Sefer Hasidim brings, and it tells Yom Tov that the Neshama has a certain Tsar about the Bizui, about what his Guf looks like. Now, let's bring out a couple of halachas. I'm going to address a number of things you guys spoke about. Don't worry. Okay, so we learned from here that those 7 days when a person is sitting Shiva, okay, and you learn that you have to come to be Menachem Avol. There's the idea of being Menachem Avol, okay? So during that time that you're Menachem Avol, that the Neshama is actually there in the place, and you come to be Menachem both of them. You're being Menachem the person sitting, and you're Menachem the Neshama also. And that's one of the reasons why, at least in Nusach Ashkenaz, right? You say, Mokim Menachem Etchem, or Eschem, B'toch Shar of Lei Tzion B'Yerushalayim. I was saying Nusach Ashkenaz, no? Right? You say Eschem. Even though there's only one guy sitting there, you say Mokim Menachem Eschem. Who's Eschem? There's one guy sitting there. What are you doing? The answer is, he's sitting there next door, right? The Neshama is also over there waiting for this thing. That's why every Kaddish is extremely important, because he's there and he's hearing every Kaddish and he sees everything in every Limud Zchut. That's why they speak very strongly during these 7 days of Port, that Limud Zchut and this. That's why in a Beit Nechaman, if you go, a lot of times when you go to Nacham house, they might be talking about this and that. And you should know, al pi halacha, it's always brought down. They don't say why. It's brought in halacha that you should speak about the Met. You speak about the Met. So you say, of course you're supposed to speak about the Met, but even though you speak about other things, but you should know that the Met is listening. So the more he hears about you talking about him, what a great guy he was, and how fantastic he was, so it makes him feel better, you're mefais. And the more you start speaking about the best football team and who won this, right? So then he has an agmat nefesh. It gives a tsar to him. It gives a certain tsar to the neshama. So when you know the inside, when you read the halacha, you say, okay, we'll try our best. But when you read the inside, you realize the neshama is sitting there listening, and he wants to hear what you're interested in. And if you're talking about him or you're talking about something else, and you realize it's much more of a painful thing. The Gemara in Shabbat, Kuv Nun Bet, Kol ma she'omrim b'fnei hamet yodea. The Met knows everything that is said in front of him. He hears everything. He's there. Kol ma she'omrim lefanav. He hears everything there. Mesapim. In front of him. Okay, just like we saw in the near-death experiences.
But isn't that when the mace is lying there? So
in lying? No, but we said he also goes to the house. He's in the house and also to the thing.
In front of the Met, you don't speak. But this is different because the mace is there.
Where is he? In the
mace is in the kever.
No, the body of the mace. But I'm talking about the nefesh or the neshama of the mace.
There's still halacha applies.
Yeah,
you shouldn't speak
because he still feels it. He still hears
in
it.
In front of the neshama then.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. Right. And like I said, I'm going to show you a lot of things where he feels and he's able to know, even though of course the met is in the kever, the mace is in the kever, but still he's able to know. Now listen to this. I saw an Orchos Chaim recently from Rav Nunil. Okay, Rav Lezer Nunil. It's a Rishon that he says like this: we know that you put a ner neshama in the house. I didn't know this halacha until not long ago. You put a ner neshama in the house for the whole 7 days. We all know that you're supposed to get a ner neshama that you put in the house. He says you should put it by the petach habayit. You should put it by the door of the house. You know why? Because that way the neshama knows where to go. That way you give him an entrance to the house. Here's the go. I always thought neshama was flying through windows. I didn't realize they used the front door. But apparently he says that in order that he will know where, because like I said, he's going from the kever back to the house, to the kever back to the house. He's bouncing back and forth a little bit. So in order for him to know which way to enter, he said, I'm quoting a Rishon, you can't ask questions, and he says, therefore you should put the ner neshama there, kilo that. Now nowadays we have electricity, maybe it's a little bit better, I don't know. And back then, the only way to know to get to someone's house is by the front door. You had the light, you had a candle in front of it in order to be able to get in. But I don't know if they use electricity. Yeah, I don't know. I thought about that also.
The oval shouldn't leave the petach habayit.
The oval what?
Shouldn't leave the petach habayit.
And generally stays in the petach habayit because he's together with the neshama. Yeah, for sure. Now you know we have contradictory halachas here also a little bit. And if you look in the Ashkenazi halachas, they're very makbid not to take anything from the house. Okay, you don't take anything from the house, including bipshutai, food or anything. You're not supposed to take things. You're not supposed to do it. And because of this reason, because the neshama is there, and there's a certain ruach hatuma inside of a house of an oval.
Yeah, they eat tons of food.
But here we go. The Sephardim, Sephardim, you can't tell them not to eat. You just can't tell them. It's too hard. There's an opposite reason why. Because we hold that when you're in there and you want to be marbe brachot, the Yilui Neshama. So they actually dafka put out a lot of food with a different brachot in order to be ma'aleh the neshama, which people do on the yard side or whatever it is, in order to do that. So the Sephardim take a different connection, which I would have thought the halacha should be the opposite. Sephardim into heebie-jeebie stuff. Ashkenazim don't care about that stuff usually. And here we have the opposite. The Ashkenazim are much more machmir than the Sephardim. They hold that no, you should be marbe in brachot in order to be able to be ma'aleh and neshama, which also makes sense because you're not supposed to take things from the house. But this is for him. This is to help him, so he won't be mad at you. There won't be any akpadot. So it should be that it should be helpful. Okay?
You're supposed to take things from the house because
because the neshama's in there, yeah. And the neshama's there, and there's a certain ruach hatumah inside of the house. It's written all the time. In a beta avel, there's a certain type of... They have to eat or whatever. I'm saying it. They do what they do.
They can eat nothing.
You're not supposed to take things out of the house because there's a certain ruach hatumah in the house. It's written all the time. Kohanim are Kohanim. You're not supposed to be metamet to a neshama. You're also metamet to a goof, like he was mentioning, right? You can't go to the beit kvar, but you can go to the thing.
Is there any heebie-jeebie reason for the mirrors?
Okay, the mirrors is a number of reasons. The most simple reason, if you want pshat, if you want to be more simplistic, is because you're davening in the house for 7 days, and you're not allowed to daven in front of a mirror. Before Sha'alacha in Siman Tzadi, right, or Tzadi Aleph, right? That you're not allowed to daven in front of a mirror. So since you're not allowed to daven, so they cover the mirrors in the main room where you're davening. That's one of the reasons brought down. But there is also a reason, there's a second reason also because a mirror brings simcha. For some people, yes, some people not, maybe. Right? It brings simcha, and since you don't want to have simcha, and for that reason, you're supposed to cover all the mirrors in the house. And the third reason that they bring is, like you said, for heebie-jeebies. Because the neshama's around, and there's a certain there's a certain reflection that it shouldn't be that way. Yeah. To get a reflection, I don't know if it means that something can happen. But it's also because the neshama's in the house, so therefore you should cover it up. That's the third reason.
There's a child
if you want, I can share a few more comments about that.
If a baby hasn't had a bris yet or something like that, he shouldn't look at his reflection. Have you heard that before?
Oh, that I didn't hear, no. Not to see a reflection of it, I don't know if you hear it, tell me. I don't know if it's connected to what I'm talking about though. Is it connected? The same thing? Okay, I don't know. I'm saying if you do, tell me. I'm happy to hear. I'm always happy to hear new things.
How about it?
Not to do it. Maybe that's why I didn't hear about it. It's connected. Okay. Anyways, okay. That's that nakuda. Now, based on what we're saying that Met knows everything that's going on. Now, very important. There's a machloket. How long does a Met know? How long does someone who's niftar, his neshama, know what's going on in this world? Okay. Now, follow me till the end. Okay, because I'm going to make hagdarot here, understandings. First of all, this is a machloket like this. The Gemara says like this. Rav Avau says, "Achi yistam agolel." Okay, he says until they close the kever. And Rav Chia, Rav Shimon Berebi says, "Achi tachel abasar," until the basar decomposes. Meaning, according to Rav Avau, immediately after he closes the goylo, then he's still cognitive of what's going on, like I said, until now, b'pshutai, but really hearing and attentively to everything that's being said is only until the goylol is closed. Okay, that's why we're makpid because of this halacha to do all the hespedim while the met is still around. Why don't you bury him and then talk? You can talk from here to tomorrow. But why do you have to leave the met around? We don't like to leave met around, which is what we're going to speak about next week. Why we're not mishayim at the met? We don't leave him around, and here we are leaving him around, and it's making a hespedim, and sometimes it could take a while, right? Depending on who's talking. It takes a while, and it's not mechubed. But the answer is, like I said, once he's nistam agol, according to Rav Avau, it's mechlok. According to Rav Avau, once the kever is closed, then he's cognitive of what's going on, but it's not the same. He hears everything until he is buried, until he's buried, and therefore we dafka put the met there. It's a strange one. Kilu, the met is sitting there when you ever think about it? Why is the met sitting there when we're talking being masped him? The answer is because he's sitting there and he mamish hears every single word the person's saying. You should realize mamish knows everything, 100% cognitive of everything that's going on. L'kulei alma, according to both shitas. According to the second Shia, which is Rav Chia, he says that even after he's buried, he's still cognitive of everything that's going on until there's a decomposing of the goof. Okay, until it actually things. And now, so we have the Gemara in Yerushalmi brings like this: the first 3 days after the Ptira, the Nefesh is tas al aguf, it's on top, and everybody agrees, and therefore he knows about the Hespedim. And the Yerushalmi Mamash brings, therefore you do Hespedim, etc., in order to do that. So Hespedim are important, and that's what it is. People are mochel on Hespedim, and there's a big question if you can be mochel, especially by Gedolim, etc. But Bikaron, you should know that Hespedim are actually heard by him. It's not just for the people to know, and you're supposed to speak about the nifter. That's what it's supposed to be. They bring in halacha, it's actually brought in halacha by one of the Nusakim, maybe the Taz or Shach, I don't remember, that those people who just say divrei Torah just to, as they say, show off, or just to sound good, or just, but they're not speaking about the met. You're allowed to say divrei Torah if you're helping to express something. But who stam come to say divrei Torah, it's a kitrug, it's very bad, it's very negative, and it's not good. Okay, it's on the person who's saying it. It's not good for you. It's not good for the person to do it because the mace is listening. He's like, "What is this?" You have to know that you're speaking to him. And there's a Gemara. The Gemara brings in Shabbat Kufran Gimel. If you want to look it up, very interesting Gemara. That Rav asked from Rav Shmuel Lechamim Alev Shel Kol Hamazinim Sham Espedo Alav. He said, please, before I die, after I die, can you make sure to do a good, as I say, a geshmaka hesped? Can you give a good hesped? Because I want everyone to lechamim et alev. I want to heat everybody's hearts up. I want bechi. I want crying. I want people to go. Because the Gemara over there says that a tzaddik, to know if a person's a real tzaddik or not, is dependent, and here this is how some people think, even by non-realists, is depending on how many people are affected by the hespedim. In other words, if a lot of people are crying or this, or they really feel it, so that person was a proper tzaddik, as opposed to someone who nobody knows. Just give me 1 second. As opposed to nobody knows, it's not so much. So then the next Gemara brings, if that's true, that everything depends on how big of a tzaddik you are. So this is a great question. Abaye asked Rava. Abaye said to Rava, "What's going to be with you? Because you live in Pumpadisa and everybody hates you." That's the words in the Gemara. Kulam soinim etcha in Pumpadisa. So Rashi says, in Pumpadisa they weren't nice people and they were mastinim. I could read you the Gemaras if you want. They were not such nice and they didn't infect him, and Rava used to give him over the head, he used to give him tochacha. So Abai said, "You poor guy, you're going to be nifter. Rava, you're a big Talmud Chacham, and now everyone's not going to care, no one's going to care. They're going to say, hey, we're happy he left. Chas shown, but I'm saying they're not, no one's going to appreciate it." So,
when someone passes, there's a sense of character.
There's a sense of charata. Yeah, afterwards. That's true. Yeah. So he answers very simple. He says, it's enough that you, and he mentions one other more, the two of you should cry for me and I'm sufficient with that. Nobody else cares. It's okay. Rav Shach, you should know, when Rav Shach was nifter, I think he wrote in the tzava, or he said it. I don't remember he wrote, it was in the actual tzava. No, someone said it over Bishmai, that he said, just try to make sure I have a minion there. I have a feeling, I'm not sure if I'm going to get a minion, because a lot of people, he was very involved in things. And he said, I hope that there's a minion there that are going to be willing to come to my Levi, because he felt bad. And for anybody who was there, there was about 250,000 people there. Okay, just so you know. But he was hoping that he would get a minion, because he felt like everybody was upset at him, or, whatever it was, because he was very into,
There's a Gemara in which this guy goes down and he lays down in the cemetery there, and he hears the voices.
Right. Exactly, I'm going to get to that. Yeah, right. So it sounds like he still knows you're asking, right?
Sorry?
So what are you asking?
So that was years after.
Very good. Okay, I'm getting to that in a second. Lena, I'll answer that. Yeah. Can you give me more on Shabbat? Just I want to show it inside. Yeah.
I learned that it's a ma'ala in the Shema. It's a no hesped. In other words, if the person dies on one of those days, which is forbidden to make the hesped.
Yeah.
I learned the other way around.
That there's yeah, that's something I'm going to speak about also. You're saying there is such a thing. Yeah, the Gemara does say, right, Mr. Reminis is correct, he says that the Gemara says that there's a mila for the goof when he dies on a day when it's raining and it's pelting on his body and there's nobody around and there's no aspedim and it's Erev Shabbos, nobody's around. Yeah, the Gemara says a few different things, which we will speak about later. So it sounds like there's an advantage that people are not maspid for you. That's what he's asking. Because over there it says it's good for your neshama. The neshama gets a higher aliyah because the person suffered when he was here, so in the next world he's going to get a higher thing. But it's not a kasha, because over there it doesn't mean that nobody cared about the guy. It just meant that because of the situation, nobody was around to be maspid and died in bad time, and nobody was around able to get there. We're discussing when people are there and people really care or don't care on this. That's what makes a person on a higher level. But in Chanami, there's a certain kapara that a person has if he doesn't get hespedim, if he doesn't get a hespedim. Okay, that all shows you this idea that during these 7 days, That is what a neshama is going through. He knows he's able to be cognitive, and a person has to be careful to treat him correctly. Now, you're asking a good question. He's saying there's a number of Gemarot. We have a number of Gemarot in many places. One I've quoted in the past was Gemara Brachot, which is of people who are cognitive, neshamas who are still knowledgeable of what's going on in this world even after many years. We find many places where neshamas are familiar many years. First of all, the Gemara Brachot, I quoted it once, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere, I think it's on Daf Yudchet, that's what it is. Yeah, I thought it was on Chaf. Okay, on Daf Yudchet, let's say, Yudchet Amud Bet, that over there we have that Chassid, Oto Chassid, that had gotten in a fight with his wife or whatever it was, and he went into Beit HaKfarot, and he slept in the Beit HaKfarot, and he heard these two neshamot that were talking to each other, and he was able to hear about the whole entire future based on their discussions that they have in the Beit HaKfarot. So we see that they're able to be cognitive of what's going on. We also find that Yaakov Avinu, right? Yaakov Avinu buried his wife Rachel. Why? In Ephrata. Why? Because we always know that she will be Rachel Mevakel B'nea. She's always going to be there to daven for us. She's always there around to be able to take care of us. There's Gemara in Tanit and Daf Chav Gimel that one of the Amoraim was being really pestered by some of the goyim over there. They were really pestering him a lot. And they were bothering him a lot. I think it was Rav Chia, I don't remember who it was 100%. It was one of the Amoraim that they were pestering him a lot. And one time they were walking through the Beit HaKfarot with their horses or whatever it was, and his father of this Amora, who was not alive, stuck his hand out of the kever and grabbed the leg of the guy who was pestering him all the time, and he threatened him that if you ever bother my son again, you're going to come down here with me. You're going to get in trouble. Dangerous, right? It's not good to walk through a Beit HaKfarot sometimes, right? And Baruch Hashem, it helped, right? And it would have helped me, right? So anyways, it helps. So you see that they still are coming. There's another Gemara in Tanit, one more Gemara in Chavdal Mabet, by Abba, the father of Rava, came to him in a dream. Rava was alive and his father was not alive, and he came to him in a dream and he told him, son, I want you to go into the other bed, switch beds. Why, Abba? I said just go to the other bed. You don't ask questions on your father. He said it was the middle of the night, 3 a.m. And he told him, please switch to the other bed. There's Gemara in Tanit, Chavdal bed. You can look it up. And so Rava said, your father tells you, keep it of him, even if he's not alive. So he went to the other bed. Okay? So what you're wondering what the punchline is, right?
And
so what happened? Basically, he woke up in the morning and he saw his bed was cut in half by the Satan. The Sidrach was coming to get him, and he missed. His whole bed was sliced into two chalakim, into two pieces. Okay, because of by the shadim that were coming to get him. Uncle, that was back in those days. They had a lot of action back then. It was much more exciting. Anyways, so we see from all this that it seems to be that there is some type of connection even after the 12 months. We have 7 days and then 12 months where there's a minimal connection, but even after 12 months there still seems to be some type of connection. So what's the answer? So Tosfot already, he doesn't bring all these Gemaras I just quoted to you, but Tosfot on this Gemara himself says, Neshama shelo ole v'shuv eini yoredet. After this period of time it goes up, the neshama, and it doesn't come down anymore. Right? He's able to go up and not come down. Afal pikin, says Tosfos, keshi rotza yoredet. When he wants, he's allowed to go back. In other words, the first 7 days, 30 days, 12 months, he's limited to where he has to go. He's limited to where he has to go. It's okay? Yeah? He's limited to where he has to go. But after the 12-month period, he's upstairs, he's in Gan Eden, like we're going to speak about Bezrat Hashem, he's okay. But Keshu Ratzeh, if he wants, sometimes he's allowed to go down, which is really, if you look in the Gemara Brachot, that's really what they're doing. They came down in the middle of the night, I don't know, and they decided to come down, and for whatever reason they decided to do that. It wasn't that they were hanging out there dafka, they came down in certain periods of times, they came down there. He brings another Gemara from a Gemara in Baba Batra. Famous Gemara, we're over there, Rav Bana was sitting by the petach of the Me'ara. This is already connected to Marat HaMachpelah a little bit, and he saw in the petach of the cave, he saw Avram Avinu sitting there together with his Eved Eliezer. You know those Gemaras, those esoteric Gemaras. For those of you who might know the book Juggler and the King, or the Gra, the Pirush of the Gra, you know the book. It's all these esoteric Gemaras in Baba Batra. But anyways, over there it talks about Avram Avinu and Eliezer, and he was sitting in the petach of the cave. The Gemara talks about that. His head was in the lap of Sarah, and she was checking his hair for lice. have to go figure it, and they have to read the Be'er Shagor to know whatever everything's going on there. But over there you see, so he goes, what's going on? I thought Avraham Avinu's long gone. He's already niftar quite a while ago. A few years, what's he doing down in the kever of the Marad, or Abonazam and all that? So he says, Tosfot says, based on this, that sometimes if they need to come down, they come down. They come down sporadically for what? For a life check. For a life check. To come down when they need to come down. Okay?
What about Shabbat? Do they come down also?
Okay, Shabbat I'm going to get to in a second. That I'm coming right now. Mamish right now. Okay? Now I'm going to give a lot of examples, about this idea. I'm just going to give about 10 examples about this idea to show you, Aleph leHalacha, and especially leHalacha, this idea that by the dead person, his nefesh is still there. There's still an aura, there's still a little bit of his existence in that area, and you'll see how that has relevance for us in halacha, which for goyim, let's say, does not have relevance. And I'm just going to use a number of examples. I will finish this year. I'll take about 5-6 minutes just to show you a few examples of how you see that the nefesh is still connected to the body. Yeah, I'm sorry.
When they come down, would that include where they speak to appear into a dream, in a dream to somebody?
Yeah, I don't know if that's called coming down. I'm not sure. It's maybe coming up. And a dream, you're still in Shamayim, you're still high up. So I'm not sure if that's called to come down. But to a certain extent, yeah. So let's give a few examples of how this works, okay? How this works. First of all, we find that a person davens by a kever on a yard site, right? When it's a Yom Lula, when someone was niftar and it's yard site, the day we see that a person goes to daven by the person's kever. Why is a person going to the kever? Just go from here. Why do you have to go to the kever? The answer is, and by shloshim, we have a shloshim coming up, you go to the kever to say kaddish. Why do you do that to say kaddish? Because the neshama is there, especially by shloshim. He's going up to the next dark guy. He's going up to the next stage, where he's starting to have a certain din upon him. So therefore you come to the kever because he still has affiliation. The nefesh, right? The havla degarmi, which we spoke about, is still there. There's a certain amount that's still there. And that, of course, is a second example with the kivrei tzadikim. When you go all to kivrei tzadikim, people are willing to fly to the wee places of the world, like, let's say, I don't know, Russia, or Uman, or whatever, right? And they're willing to go places because they still have apparently some type of aura, some type of tzidkus that's still left over in these certain places. It leaves a certain roshem. Like we mentioned before, there's a certain leftover place which is still there, which is taking care of it, and you just have to be careful when you go, but you have to know that the tzaddikim have a certain thing. I have a totally separate shir. I spoke about it on, I forgot what it was, I was on Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about it. I'm not speaking about it now. We spoke about, for whoever was on Rosh Hashanah, about when you daven by the kever of the tzaddikim, how you're supposed to daven. Right? There's an isser of kotzah benitiyot, it's avodah zarah to daven to the met. Chas shalom, no one's allowed to do that. And we spoke about all the shitot about it, etc. We spoke about it on Rosh Hashanah, but it's not for now. It's a whole separate shir. It'll take 45 minutes to speak about. Okay? But there is this idea of davening at the kever, just like you daven at the kotel, let's say, but you don't daven to the met at all. You don't daven to him, you daven about him.
Is that
what?
Is that any different at all to Rachel who special was there?
Because she's able to, but you still can't daven to her. But you're right. There is a certain thing more about Rachel Imenu than you're right than other. There's a special Indian dafka to go there because she was put there l'shem kach to do that, to daven for you. So that's why there's much more of a segula being answered over there. It's true. Because that's her matara. That's why she was buried in Ephrata. She should be buried in Marata Machpelah, and she's not there because of that. That's why all the tzaddikim are Marata Machpelah, because that's the gesher to Gan Eden. That's the way to going to Gan Eden. That's where it is. In the Sefer Hasidim, this is a continuation to what I just mentioned. He brings these things. The meitim, the dead people, have hana. They have hana from the fact that people come to them, their relatives come to them, people that they love, their loved ones come to them. I'm reading you the words of the Sefer Hasidim, Semen Taf Nun, if you want to see it. Umevakshim al nishmatam tova. And you come and you ask for your loved ones that things should be good, you daven. Umetivim lehem be'oto olam. It helps them in the next world. Ukeshmevakshim mehem mitpalalim al chayim. And when you talk to them, they daven for you also. It helps you when you daven for them that everything should be good for them over there, which I don't know how many people do that. There is one thing to go to the kever and of course say Kaddish, etc. But you go and you say everything should go, and B'ezrat Hashem things should be good in Olam Haba, and Sheva Ilul and Neshama, etc. When you do these types of things, they help you just like you help them to a certain extent. And the Sefer Chasidim, of course, brings from Kaleb ben Yefuna. From Kaleb ben Yefuna, when he went to Kever Avotav, he went to the Kvarim of his forefathers in order to daven. That's what he says in Taf Nun. In Taf Shin Tet, the Sefer Chasidim writes like this: a met, a dead person that comes in a dream. He brings a maisa. Hear this. He brings a maisa, scary maisa. He came to a dream, to a kahal, to a certain group of people who were leaving the Beit HaKvarot, or they were in the area, or they were nearby. It's not clear exactly if they were there on purpose or not on purpose. And they told him, please don't leave, we need you here a little bit longer to daven, and daven with us, or daven for us, etc. That's what he says. Lo la'azov sheyesh lanu hana'ah keshatem beBeit HaKvarot. We have a certain hana'ah. And the person got, and that's what he got in a dream. And guess what? They decided to leave. They decided to leave. You know what happened because they left? These are the words of Sefer Chasidim. They all died. That's what it said. They all dropped dead. They all niftar. You have to know, the Meitim are very helpful, but they're also very dangerous. So try to be a little bit careful when you go to a thing. But Al Kapanim, that's another connection that we see to there. On the opposite spectrum, on the other direction, I'll quote to you the Zohar in Parshat Shmot in 2 weeks. The Zohar says in Parshat Shmot like this: Lulei tfilat meitim avur chayim. If the meitim would not be davening for us and trying to help us out upstairs, lo hayinu mitkamim bichlal. We wouldn't be able to stand here and be successful and be protected, etc. If the meitim, I assume especially our krovei mishpacha, our loved ones, etc. If they were not davening for us upstairs, we would be in big trouble. Like the Yalkut says, that they're magish and a tsar, they know. And the Sefer Chasidim says like this, and another Sefer Chasidim, Siman Tov Nun Bet. It's all in the same area. He says there's one night where this is a continuation to that same Zohar. There's one night where all the meitim come out of their kever. Okay, get ready? You scared? What? He said Halloween. Come out of their kever. He says, well, that they get on film. That doesn't work. They don't get on film. It's on Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah comes out close to Halloween. I don't know. This is not so far. Right? It depends on the year, I think. Hoshana Rabbah, when we're up all night, which is a special night, he says, on Hoshana Rabbah, they come out, and they don't just come out, they come to help and daven for the metivim lahem be'oto alam. They come to daven, they make a minyan, it says. They go, everyone calls out to the other one, wake up, what are you sleeping, get up, no? They come and they daven for the chayim, sheyesh lanu hana. Yeah, okay, they come and they daven for us on Hoshana Rabbah. They all come up. So if you want to see them, you can go on Hoshana Rabbah and you can see.
Men and women? Women also? You said they make a minyan.
Yeah, I said the minyan was a joke, but it's a good question. I don't know if it's dafka men. I don't know. I mean, the Lashon of the Sefer Chasidim is in Lashon Zohar. No, he says Nefashot. That's the Lashon. Nefashot yotzad bin kvar. It's in Siman Taf Nun Bet in Sefer Chasidim. I have one at home. If anyone wants to see it, I could show you a few of them. Okay? Oh, and the Sefer Chasidim continues, Kvar haya maise shehichbiu atzmam shtei Chasidim. That's why it's called Sefer Chasidim, by the way. He's always got all the Chasidim. That 2 Chasidim hid themselves in the Beit HaKvarot, and they heard one calling to the other on Hoshana Rabbah, asking, they say, let's be mevakesh rachamim for Klal Yisrael. Okay?
So what you say?
And he brings also, and even if someone has a gzer on him that he's supposed to die, that they can't stop that, obviously, because Baruch Hu says they daven that at least it should be not difficult. He should go with the choli kal. That's his lashon. They try to daven at least that it shouldn't be heavy. It shouldn't be hit too hard. Okay, so here's another example of this idea. The metim are still tutzach, as they say. They're still around a little bit. They still have some connection, affiliation with us.
We talk about the 3 parts of the neshama.
Yeah. This is
Right. When you talk about the meitim, are you talking about all 3 or only parts of it?
Mainly, in general, we're talking about that there's in general a nefesh that's there only. The neshama and everything is up there. And what the Tosafot was telling us, here and there, sometimes they are able, the ruach, I don't know if it's a neshama. I would be more in the ruach, but we call the ruach and neshama together because they're connected. That sometimes it comes down, like let's say on Hoshana Rabbah, and it might come in special times and do a special thing in order to help us. But the nefesh is there 24/7, more or less.
So when
Almost 24/7. I'll show you one exception. But
make a seance, they shouldn't.
Which you shouldn't do.
And they bring in which
right? They're bringing the neshamas. No, they're bringing ruchos. They're bringing ruchot. That's ruchat, and again, ruchat neshama, it's hard to say they bring a neshama down, but a ruach for sure they can bring down, which is connected to the nefesh. And they can only bring, we're going to speak about seances, Bezot Hashem, if we get to it. I'm not going to say we're going to do it, don't get excited here, right? We're going to show you what happens there. But what happens is they bring down a ruach, which is a low ruach. They can't bring down a tzaddik. They'll never be able to bring down a big person. The only time we've ever seen such a thing happen is when Shaul brought down Shmuel, or whatever it is, and that was within 12 months. The Dafka bringing those Dafka within 12 months because it still didn't go up. And it was Shaul, and he was an Adam Tzaddik also. He was a big man. So he had some capabilities to do it, and he got punished for it also. It wasn't very good when he did that. It was considered a negative thing he did that. But that was only only within 12 months. He would have never been able to do that after 12 months. So a tzaddik, or they always get low ruchot. There's tons of stories. I believe not all, I'll give you stories. And then always they see like their father. Remember, it's usually, who is it, the chayalim or whatever. People who are not religious that do it, and they see relatives of theirs who are also very nuts. And there are spirits that are walking around, There are stories that the ruach came to them, and it was helpful because the ruach came and said, "You never said Kaddish for me, you jerk. Right? I'm still flying around here. I'm not able to get off." And they said Kaddish. And then he said Kaddish for a week, and then after he finished, he wasn't able to talk to them anymore. He wasn't able to get in touch with them anymore because the ruach went up. So,
I'm saying Kaddish someone exactly that story. That somebody came up to me very quickly.
yeah.
I'm not a religious guy.
I'm sorry I'm over time. I feel bad. It's okay. We'll do 2-3 more minutes. I'll try to finish. Let me just finish. I'm sorry because I want to close this because I want to start kfura next time. Okay, not kfura. You understand what I meant. To speak about it. Let me just make a quick thing. Another halacha which we all know is the Gemara in Brachot, which brought down, of course we know in Hilchot Tzitzit, it's brought down the idea that you can't wear your tzitzit in the Beit HaKfarot, because the Gemara says, because when it drags on the Kfarim, it's loag l'rash, which means that they will be. But the lashon of the Gemara, which I don't know if everybody knows, is the Meitim says, you're coming to us and you're being chutzpahdik and you're showing us that you can keep mitzvot and we can't keep mitzvot. He says, now we're going to pull you in with us. You understand? It's a kitrug. It's a dangerous thing to do. One day you're also coming one day you're also going to be buried. And now you're coming making fun of us that we can't do mitzvot and you can do it. So it's a certain type of, if you look in the Gemara, it sounds like a certain type of kitrug also, which only comes as a result of the fact that the Meitim are still around. Another halach we find in Siman Taf Reish Vav in Hilchot Yom Kippur, that if you didn't ask mechila from someone that you need to ask, it says in the halach over there in Sif Bet, they have to bring 10 people to his kever, and you ask mechila from the kever. Why not mechila from the kever? He can't answer you. The answer is because the nefesh of the garmi, the havd of the garmi is still around. His nefesh is still there, and there's the Inyan still to go ahead and try to get a little bit of mechila. Okay, that's that. I have a couple more. Yeah.
Other mitzvahs?
No, other mitzvahs. It says also Sefer Torah. Don't go with the Sefer Torah or learning. You're not supposed to. What I mentioned before about the Hespedim. I mentioned before about the Hespedim about saying Divrei Torah. You're allowed to say Divrei Torah only if it's for the Tzorach HaMet. But when a guy stops saying Divrei Torah, this connects to the Parsha. That's not good. It's all Garash. He's not allowed to do that. It's only the Kavod HaMet.
Make a bracha, so you drink water or something?
You're allowed to make a bracha. Yeah, you have to. You're not allowed to drink. That's an Isser. Talking about doing something, but that's an Isser, right? Let me just bring 2 more examples, then we'll stop. Okay, the Zohar brings in Parshas Pinchas. Bezman she'adam says simcha, when a person does a simcha, right? This is a little bit connected. 100%. This is important to say. I've heard people say this in the simcha. People know this because unfortunately sometimes one's parents are not around, and you should know the Zohar in Pinchas. It's before the Zohar. It's not made up. That when a person makes a simcha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings their father and mother from Gan Eden. From Gan Eden comes down, Lismoach imo b'simchato. If it's a simcha shel mitzvah, not a birthday party, yeah? You're doing a simcha shel mitzvah, a proper simcha, a wedding, or even a brit milah, or whatever, bar mitzvah yesh ladun, not a bat mitzvah, a bar mitzvah, right? In such cases, then, it's a simcha shel mitzvah, and the father and the mother come down from Shamayim to be misamech. First is Zohar. He knows what he's talking about. You can't. That just shows you that he's still mekushar here. They're not completely disconnected. One last one, Matzah V'Yitri.
We have to invite them to come.
He doesn't say that, but I understand. Yeah, could be.
Are you going to send an invitation?
Could be.
Yeah,
just an
I've seen people put invitations back.
What's the address?
Go to basic chorus.
That isn't in here, really.
You go to basic chorus. You ask any of the shabbos that are floating around. In the schus of I give the stocker in your name, you should give a message to my parents to come to this.
I didn't know that. That's what's written, yeah?
I've seen people.
It's not over here.
Put invitations on Kvar.
Okay. Okay, I hear.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be very interested to see if there's such a makor. In the Zohar itself, it's not written, but maybe some of them.
It's taught to me through from Adam from Manchester. Where he got it.
So he said he didn't talk about putting invitation, right? That's not a little bit.
Not invitation.
To give tzedakah and say
in the name of the
niftar to say to bring him. Very nice.
Give that information to them.
Okay, I hear. Usually they do this type of invitation when they do it at the simcha. They say, I want my abba and ima and this. They bring some type of invitation in general. You have to get them there in the first place. Yeah, they have to get dressed and everything. They have to get ready, right? It's not simple. I hear.
You're not invited, I'm not going.
Incredible. One last Mar Malcolm is a Machzor of Vitri. And he brings a tshuva from Rashi, from the tshuvas of Rashi. We have this paper, by the way. That he says within the first 12 months, the neshamas come to the Beit HaKnesset at nighttime. They come to the shul at nighttime, kisham and motzot lehem menucha, because they find a certain relaxation there to be there in the Beit HaKnesset, to mishum achi, and that's the reason why, as we know, it's one of the reasons why, he doesn't explain, but I think I understand why. That's why we say Magen Avot. We know after Shmona Esrei and Arvit, we say the extra tefillah, that we say Mein Sheva, similar to the Chazarat Hashatz, we say Magen Avot. Now the reason why it's brought in halacha for that is because of the extended stay. Somebody would daven a long Shmona Esrei, and their shuls were in the fields, so he would be left alone, and it was dangerous for him to walk back. So we daven an extra thing after Shmona Esrei on Arvit, in order that everybody can leave together, that they won't ditch him, that they'll stay in order to do that. So it could be it's a similar idea, because there's many ruchot in the shul on Friday night, because they come to shul on Friday night in order to get a certain manuch, and maybe it's not kedai to stay there by yourself. If you're staying and learning, you should. Don't be mevatel Torah for this. But there's an idea that trying to stay extra. There's an idea that the ruchot come on Shabbat. On that note, I do want to say one last. It's a little bit of contradiction, not 100%. We said that you go to the kever of your parents or the tzaddikim, etc., for Makom Kodesh. I do want to mention that in the Shar Ruach HaKodesh, and it's also brought the Stapler brings this, Shar Ruach HaKodesh is from Chaim Vital, it does bring one quick thing, that they say there's no reason to go to Kvarim, A, on Shabbat, and B, on Yom Tov, and C, on Rosh Chodesh, She'ha-nefesh lamala velo masig klum. He's not there. Even the Nefesh goes up. The Nefesh, I said 24 hour 7. I said there's one exception. It's really 24 hour 6. He's not there on Shabbat. He doesn't work on Shabbat. So he goes up to Shemayim, it sounds like, and his lashon is, over there he's not masig anything, and therefore there's no reason to go. Like if people live in Tzvat, the Beit HaKvarat is right there. It's a great place. You can go visit their Rizal and this, Beit HaKvarat and this. But on Shabbat, according to this idea, it's not so simple that there's any purpose of doing that. You can go 6 days a week, but not that. The best times to go, they say, is Erev Rosh Chodesh. That's before they leave. I guess there's an extra opposite fees. And the 15th of the month. The 15th of the month, which is the most powerful. The moon is its fullest. That's apparently the most powerful time that he's around. So therefore, that's enough. Now, not everybody agrees to this. You should know Chassidish as far in the Chozim Lublin, they say, disagreed. He said also on Shabbat and Yom Tov, there's still a Havla, there's still a certain type of Rishimo there's still a leftover. It's a disagreement, and therefore you'll find people that still go on Shabbat. I'm just mentioning it to you. But there is this question if there's a purpose of going in the thing. The moral of today's story was basically the idea that don't think that when a person's niftar, it's all over. He's still around. Of course, the neshama and ruach each has neshama's in the Gan Eden Elyon, the ruach in the Gan Eden Tachton, and the nefesh is by the goof, still kind of hovering around with periodic vacations. Okay, but B'ikaron he's there, and as a result of that, we find a tremendous amount of halachot, which, like we said, the goyim think it's a bunch of baloney. Well, go to the kever and go to this. They don't do all this stuff. They go to the kever, throw them in the river, spread them out in 7 seas, and that's it. What do you have to do? Burn the body, because there's nothing there. But that's why we're so makpid about the next subject, which is kvura and this, because we know that there's a tremendous amount of kedusha to the goof, and the nefesh, which is still connected to it. So with that, we're going to speak about Kvura next time. We'll speak about Chibut HaKever, which is the balancing of the kever, and also we'll speak about a little bit scary Rima V'Tolea, the worms that come into the body, which are also connected to what we're speaking about today, how it's painful for the goof. Okay? Thank you.